short time ago.
Oh, look, we have a very constructive relationship with the energy bosses, indeed with Andy Vesey too. And Andy will be meeting with the Prime Minister and myself on Monday in Canberra to discuss all options going forward on Liddell. Andy has not read the AEMO report, which makes the very strong point that with the closure of Liddell in 2022, there's going to be a major supply shortfall in the market. And as the Prime Minister's made clear, his first responsibility is to Australian families and businesses. They need access to reliable and affordable power. And if that means keeping Liddell open for more than 5 years, then we will do everything we can to ensure that happens.
But how do you do it when AGL says they want out? Who will buy it? Has any company expressed interest to you in buying it? And how much taxpayer dollars would you stump up to try and encourage someone to take that over?
Well, look, the conversations are just starting because we got the AEMO report on Monday night. And as you can understand, these are complex discussions, and it is a major decision to keep a coal-fired power station such as Liddell going beyond that scheduled closure date. But we recognise that accelerating the closure of coal-fired power stations is not in the interests of the consumers, both in terms of the reliability of the system and price. This is in stark contrast, Kieran, with Bill Shorten and the Labor Party, who have supported motions in the Parliament to kickstart the closure of coal-fired power stations.
You say that the conversations are just starting, and yet you've got Andy Vesey contradicting the Prime Minister via Twitter. It doesn't look too constructive right now.
Well, I think you'll see Andy Vesey make it very clear that he's prepared to have these discussions with the government on all options. And as I said, he hasn't yet seen the AEMO report. And once he sees the AEMO report and the implications for the system from the closure of Liddell,
so he might have jumped the gun.
You'll understand. Well, no, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying when he sees the AEMO report and the concerns that the market operator does have for the future stability of the system, if there is insufficient baseload dispatchable power available, I'm sure he'll understand where we're coming from.
He'll operate in the national interest as opposed simply just to his customers. Is that what you're hoping for?
Well, his obligations are to his shareholders. The government's obligations are to the Australian people.
Okay. Well, just to ask you for clarity in terms of dollars, how much would the government be looking to provide here as a subsidy, an incentive?
Look, I'm not going to speculate about that, but what we do understand is that you can't accelerate the closure of coal-fired power stations without serious implications for both price and the stability of the system. It's no coincidence, Kieran, that the AEMO report makes clear its strongest concerns are for the states of South Australia and Victoria, where tired Labor governments have helped accelerate the closure of two big coal-fired power stations, Hazelwood and the Northern Power Station. And we can't afford to see that happen in New South Wales or indeed in other states like Queensland. So we want to ensure that there is sufficient baseload coal-fired power in the system, and this AEMO report does reset the debate.
As recently as last year, though, you said we are moving away from coal and that is not a bad thing. That was last year. Do you still stand by that position?
I certainly stand by the fact that there is a transition underway in the energy system, but we must be realistic about that. We need to understand that we get more than 60% of our power in the national electricity market from coal, and not all electrons are created equal. Namely, wind and solar power can provide energy when the wind's blowing and the sun's shining, but storage technology is still not advanced enough or cheap enough to compete with gas and coal-fired power stations which provide that level of baseload power. So we have to be realistic about the transition. We have to prepare for it. South Australia clearly didn't prepare for it, and the Victorian Labor government is not being honest with the Victorian people about the implications of its policy decisions.
Mr. Frydenberg, thanks for your time. Appreciate it.
Good to be with you.